everybody, and welcome back to the show. Before we get started, I want to remind everyone to check us out on your favorite podcast app. I'm on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. And then check us out on YouTube. I've been getting good response off of the YouTube clips, so thank you for that. And for anyone wanting context to my clips, the point is to get you curious so that you listen. I get comments saying, why is there no context? I'm like, the context is listen to my show. So today I'm very excited to have Diana Pinto. And she is the owner of Pinto Guns in Renton. Yep. And as the listeners might know, about a year ago, I had a conversation with Lauren Culp, who ran for governor. Inslee just trounced him, though. And I only had 30 minutes with him, and I wish that I had more time because there was more questions that I wanted to ask. So I thought,
always lots of questions.
Yeah, there's a ton. So I thought, okay, let's have on the business side, because he's on the politics side. Let's have someone who's on the business side and how these laws actually affect business. And I went into your shop and was like a crazy person and said, hey, do you want to come and have a chat with me? So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Excited to be here.
So tell me a little bit about the shop, how it started, how you ended up with the shop.
I tell people I come from a gun family. My dad actually had a gun shop in Kent for about 25 years. So he was an avid shooter. My mom, her parents, my siblings, my son, my nieces and nephews. So that's how we kind of got into guns. And then, like I said, with my dad having his shop, we ran it for a little bit after he closed down, or after he passed, and then closed it down. I kind of got into a couple of different businesses and then came back to guns. And so we started, I started where I'm at now in 2007 part-time.
And that's downtown Renton.
Downtown Renton. And a lot of people, if you know downtown Renton, we're next to the Eagles, all in the old part where the antique stores. Did that part-time, and there was an existing gunsmith there.
Oh, okay.
And so it was nice to have that partnership. And then when he retired in 2012, we kind of took over the whole place. And then about, I think it's been about 4 years, we expanded into what was an old pawn shop years ago, and then it was a thrift store. It blew a big hole out in the wall and expanded. So
it is a big shop. It is a really big shop.
I look back and think, I don't know how we did it when we first started with as small as it was.
Always more space is good.
Oh, always. Yes.
Yeah. That's the thing. When you have a hobby, space is so important.
It
and
fills
coveted
up so fast.
When we bought this house, my wife loved it, and I wasn't too crazy about it. And where we're here now, where we are, the studio was a scary looking room. It had ugly tile. It had hideous walls. It was dark. It looked like a torture chamber.
Oh, wow.
But I told my wife, you know what? If I can start construction on this space right away, because I need my space. And then she said, okay. So we moved in, and a week later I had contractors in here fixing
okay.
it.
Okay.
So I
Not
definitely took her
around.
on it. And then I'm on the boat right now of this isn't enough. Because as you can see, I use this as a photography studio as well. And there isn't a whole lot of room. So now I'm debating how quickly we should move up build a building in the back plan.
Oh, okay.
Because all the cool guys have a whole warehouse.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
So your dad had a shop in Kent, and so always around guns,
always around. Yeah. I mean, my sisters and I have two older sisters and a younger brother, and we always tell a story about, we were slave labor. I mean, dad would have, my parents were divorced, but we were with dad on the weekends, and we'd go down to the shop and help him out there sometimes. And one of our tasks, he would get bullets in by the huge garbage can.
Oh.
And our job was to count them out to put them in 100 packs. No scale to weigh them, no nothing, counting. And my sisters and I will still to this day say, we always had that vision of Lucy, I Love Lucy at the chocolate factory.
Yeah.
Counting out. So that got us through this massive garbage can of bullets.
So just would buy them in bulk and
Oh yeah. Just
does that still happen?
probably not as much, but I mean, this was probably I don't want to say like a manufacturer size that you could buy it in, but it was a huge amount. And
this show is brought to you by The Sneakers Friend. If you're a sneakerhead and have dozens or hundreds of shoes and it's heat and you wear them, you'll definitely want to check out The Sneakers Friend. Or if you're just getting into sneakers and you want to keep them looking fresh, you'll definitely want to check out The Sneakers Friend. Formulated with gentle cleaning agents, you can use The Sneakers Friend across a variety of materials. And they have a special offer for CZ Media podcast listeners. Go to the website, thesneakersfriend.com, purchase your cleaning kit, and enter in code CZMP15, and you'll get 15% off your order. So go to their website, thesneakersfriend.com, order your kit, type in code CZMP15, and you'll get 15% off. So again, sneakerheads, not so much sneakerheads, check out The Sneakers Friend.
And so, yeah, we would. So, and then eventually he got a scale or a
because they're all the same, or at least
all
they should
the same.
be.
We just count out and fill it up to that weight. But yeah, that's where we kind of cut our teeth. And over the summers, we all worked there. And so
not only did his passion for firearms, but also the entrepreneurship, it seems like you caught on to.
Yes.
With his, once you got older, did you start to do more on the business side?
Oh, probably not until I was, I would say almost maybe college, because again, we'd kind of come home, work in the shop a little bit. So did a little bit more, my dad had his strengths. Paperwork was not always one of them. And that's what I love. And, so there's...
You love paperwork?
I do. It's sickening, I know. But, the guys at the shop, it's great because you guys, I always tell them, you sell the gun, you love doing that. And it's not that I don't like it. It's just, you guys have the passion and and the paperwork's got to get done.
Yeah.
So...
But it's super, I mean, there's kind of a whole lot of... federal things that you have to keep in mind.
Federal and state, and you got to keep...
It has to be done right.
I's dotted and T's crossed, and so, I would say I probably college where I started to kind of get to the, Dad, you do what your strength is, and I'll do the paperwork kind of.
How different is owning a gun shop now versus when your dad had it?
The big thing is internet. I mean, he when he passed away, it probably was just coming on. So that's been the big thing because, when you're pricing out a used gun, before you would think, well, in this area, they're not real popular. So it's $400. But now you're kind of thinking nationwide.
Right.
And you've got customers that are smart and that are looking and saying, this just sold on Gunbroker for $800. And so it's been good and bad. It has.
That's what I was thinking. It could be good because it does open up your customer base, but bad because then when someone comes into the shop, they're just automatically going to price shop.
Kind of, yeah.
Do you get those customers who say, "Hey, this price is $100 cheaper someplace else"? Do you?
Yeah, and you probably always run into that. I think even back in his day, you'd get people that do you price match?
Yeah.
No. Again, the bigger thing that we run into is, I would say the higher prices where someone's got a firearm they want to sell us, and we look at and okay, we'll probably sell it for $600, and they. Well, I saw it online again. I saw it online for $1,000.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a little something called keeping the lights on.
Exactly. Or it's, again, the big thing we see is that's what someone is asking. That's not what they're getting.
Yeah.
You know, look at the auction sites where you can actually see hammer prices. That's what they're selling for. Somebody might be asking $1,000,
Right.
but it's still for sale.
Yeah.
So
You know, it's so interesting. There's parallels. I mean, that's just business.
it is. It's just
And,
business.
you know,
yeah.
I'm super into sneakers. Right behind that paper, there's about 70 pairs of sneakers.
Oh my goodness.
And some of them are pretty pricey.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got them, I mean, that's what I did. It's like, go to who is selling them.
Mm-hmm.
And and this is a good thing and a bad thing. There is one website that tells you what they sold for.
Oh, okay.
So if you're looking for this particular sneaker, it tells you what were the last sales.
Oh, okay.
And then it's kind of like people bid. So people will put what they want, but then people will put what they will pay. And then if someone is desperate enough, they'll select the lower amount. And then that throws the price for the next week or so a little topsy-turvy. Because it's like, hey, someone, you know, either go. I've been burned where I bought a shoe because I thought it was going to be super exclusive.
Oh.
And the worst one was I paid almost $1,000 for a shoe. And then it turned out that Nike produced way more than anticipated. And now that shoe is you can probably get it for $300.
Oh.
But I was one of those idiots who just jumped the gun and saw that people were paying, you know, that much. I'm like, oh, but it's a risk.
It is. And you see that with the new gun, you know, like when Ruger came out with its precision rifle, and they were really hard to get. If we could have gotten them from our vendors and our normal markup, I want to say it would have been $1,400, $1,500. People were putting them online $2,500 and getting it. So there's that. I got to be the first kid on the block with the new toy, and which is fine. But then you're not going to get that when you go to sell it because.
Who do you think is doing this? Is it guys doing it? Is it dudes jumping the gun and just saying, I need this now?
I think so.
That's a man trait, I think.
I think so. I mean, it's probably not. Because there's women out there, I guess, with the purses and the shoes and things like that. That I got to be to say I'm the first one that has this.
Because my wife does not have that with anything. She's not a collector. She collects, this is the crazy thing, she collects these tote bags that businesses give out at fairs and stuff. She has them everywhere. Like I think there's easily 100 of them in upstairs, and then there's probably another 20 in her car. And then when we go somewhere, she'll say, here, I'm going to take these bags.
She's got her bag.
But then she'll want to then put the bags into my car and have them just in case. It's like, I don't want these bags in my car.
I think we all probably have something. I'm not the the latest and greatest, but I joke with Chris that I went to the dollar store, spent $45 at the dollar store. That and Joanne Fabrics are my crack. So
I chuckle when I hear Joanne's because as a kid, my mom would go and I was just fascinated by looking at all of the patterns. Who does this? Mm-hmm. And but then my mom didn't use patterns. She would just go and she would make curtains and do all that stuff. So that always brings back a memory. Well, what's happening right now, and then it is, I think I'll just go ahead and get right into this part. It is HB 2040, and it is a ban on assault style weapons. What are your thoughts on that? Just
it's ridiculous. I mean, what they're banning, what they're calling, because it's not even the issue is what is considered an assault
firearm. That was going to be my next question is what is an assault style? Because
when you really look at what the actual definition is, yes, it is a military. It has the ability to go fully auto. I believe it has the ability to go burst, which is like 3 round, it has some other physical characteristics. But it's thrown around so loosely that because in this ban, one of the things I think people didn't realize it's assault. They're going after rifles and handguns and shotguns. And it's so, yeah. Now they have to have certain characteristics, but with the handguns, and this, I bring this up because it's kind of the easiest one to define. Their definition of an assault weapon, as far as a pistol is concerned, is it has to have a detachable magazine. It's got to be semi-automatic. And then one or more of the following characteristics, one of them being a threaded barrel. So,
so for
if you
like
have
a silencer?
Yeah. So if you have a Glock with a threaded barrel, that's now considered an assault weapon.
Okay.
Yeah. 22 caliber pistols. Ruger, one of their really popular ones is the Mark IV Light series. And it's a very, very popular target pistol. But again, if it's got a threaded barrel.
What's the logic behind that?
I have no idea. I mean,
they already make it really hard to get silencers, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to have a federal.
You have to go through federal
permit.
paperwork. Yeah. It's not extremely difficult. There's a bunch of hoops that you have to go through, and you pay a tax stamp, a $200 tax stamp. But I have no idea why, because silencers are legal in this state. I don't know why they see, and that's where this, and it's, you kind of think, give me an example of the last time a silencer or suppressor was used in a crime.
Right.
Or a mass shooting. Or
lots of movies.
Lots of movies, exactly. So this is where, we spoke of earlier with the common sense that if you're really, really trying to solve a problem, okay, let's look at the guns that are causing problems, right, or the people behind those guns, and address it that way. This you're right, it's what we call a feel good.
Right.
They're gonna tout it, and this is an historic event, and we've, the people of Washington State have spoken, and we're no longer going to accept, these guns in our society.
Yeah.
And
does California have a similar law?
No, see, that's the interesting thing is we've discussed this at length because I was talking to my son about it earlier, and he said even in California you can get an AR. He said now it's a neutered AR. It's got a lot of things kind of done to it, but you can still buy an AR. You can no longer buy an AR in Washington State.
You can't even make them.
No.
There's the manufacturer in Tacoma, correct?
Arrow, yes.
Yeah, and I was talking with my buddy about them, and we were just curious. Like, does that mean they close shop?
And I'm not sure. That's one thing with the gun industry is it's like a whole bunch of women at a knitting bee. There's so many rumors. Guys like to say women gossip on. So I've heard that they're moving. I've heard that they've got an exemption. I've heard a lot of things. So I don't know what is going to happen with them.
Yeah, because that's, in the state where we need more jobs and people working, the idea of closing an industry down that will take jobs away seems it's hypocritical, I think,
I think it is absolutely, because it's going to affect a lot of gun shops too. We're very lucky that we're not an AR heavy shop. We deal with more of the collectibles, the hunting, and ammunition and reloading, and so we're a little bit broader footprint on what we sell. But the shops that are predominantly AR parts and accessories, they're going to have to really switch what they're selling and hope that they can survive.
Yeah, that's so. How if I'm correct, you can keep your AR.
Yes, if you have it.
So you don't have to do anything extra. Was that the case when they banned the AR pistols?
Are you talking about the pistol braces?
Yeah.
Yes and no. When they finally made their final ruling on the braces, I believe you had 5 options. You could either apply for the federal license to turn it into a short barrel rifle. You could take the brace off. You could turn your gun over to the police. You could put a 16-inch barrel upper on it and basically turn it into a rifle. So yeah, I think there were about 5 things that you could do to make it legal.
Into a rifle. Mm-hmm. So short barrel rifles bad, regular rifles okay.
Yes, okay. Yeah. And not bad as far, but federal, state, ban, yeah. Yes, ban. Which is and that's where so much of this just gets ridiculous. Again, when my son is 26 or 27 today. Oh, happy birthday. And we were talking about the same thing, and he was like, Mom, what does it matter if it's 16 inch or 10 inch or 9 inch or this or that? And he's like, I said, you're right. In a perfect world, it should be, are you a good person? Are you a criminal? Have you followed the laws? Have you broken laws? Are you eligible to own a gun? And within reason, we should be able to sell you anything. Mm. But that's, you're right. What's the difference between a short barrel rifle that you have legally and a 16-inch barreled rifle?
Yeah, that was the next firearm that I was going to get. Would be one of those AR pistols. Mm-hmm. And then as I was talking about it with my buddy, he goes, you can't get those anymore.
Yeah, not anymore.
And he has one, and he was he was pissed off about it because he's like, now they're going to make me apply for, like, if I just have it, it's fine. Mm-hmm. But if anything happens, and then to protect myself, I should go get this permit or whatever. And he didn't want to do that. But I'm like, oh, it's not in the cards for me. I'm going to ask some questions that I don't know if they're faux pas questions to ask.
No worry.
Just because, again, I'm new to this.
Sure.
What about people that go to Idaho, just cross over, get something, and then bring it back?
Well, if it's a serial numbered item like a firearm, by law, for handguns, you have to be a resident of that state to buy a handgun in that state. So if you were going to go to Idaho and buy a handgun, you can't. Mm. Long guns, there's some leeway. Common practice used to be if it was an adjoining state, like here, a lot of dealers in Washington would say, okay, if you're Oregon, if you're Idaho, if you're Alaska, I know it's not adjoining, but it's, take Canada out and we're adjoining. And it was a long gun, they would sell you a gun and do the federal background check. Hmm. But now, because states are, Idaho or Oregon has changed a lot of its laws, a lot of gun shops, and we do this, we'll sell you, if you're an Oregon resident or an Idaho resident or an Alaska, I'll sell it to you, but I will not give it to you over the counter. I will ship it to your dealer.
Oh, and so then, you have to do
they'll do the background check, the FFL transfer.
FFL, yeah.
And that's for us, one, because I know that they've changed some things in Oregon, and I want to make sure I'm legal. Yeah. It's also because Washington a few years ago changed their taxation, and so if you're an Alaska resident, you come down here and you buy a gun, I have to charge you sales tax. If I ship it to you, I don't. Okay. So it might be a wash with shipping, but we've just opted at our shop to just say no over the counter, out of state. We'll ship it to you, but you're going to do paperwork, and it comes down to, because I want to make sure they're going to follow whatever law is in that state. Yeah, because that's what they have to do. So now, does that mean an Idaho dealer, if you went across the line and got a semi-automatic rifle in Idaho, I would I'd be willing to bet that some of the dealers over there will probably sell you a semi-auto. Now, again, technically, you bringing it back into the state, you're importing it, and that is against the law. People talk the same thing about with high cap mags. Well, if I go to Idaho, if I go to Oregon, there's nobody stopping you at the border.
Right.
We've had a few people that have said that I'm just going to go to Idaho. Well, you just need to make sure at the very least that they didn't develop that particular firearm after the ban.
Yeah.
Then you've got proof that gun didn't, Glock didn't come out with, like right now, there's a Glock 28, which is a 380. That just recently is selling to the public. So make sure you don't have any high caps for that because it didn't come out until after the ban. So little things like that. And I don't know how they're gonna
to self.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, in all honesty, yeah, you're not going to track this. What I think is going to happen is kind of like with 594 when that was the law that banned private transfers. Is, if you sold a gun to your best friend, I've known him since he was 2. I know he's not a felon. I know he's a good guy. I was going to sell him this gun and give it to him. You're probably not going to get in trouble. My thought is it's probably somebody who has a list of criminal charges and they're just going to tack that on and say, we busted him with drugs and 500 guns and this and this and this. And by the way,
yeah,
he's got 50 high cap mags. And
is it, am I correct that family members don't need to do this FFL? Like if it's transferring within?
Yes, that was one of the exemptions from 594 was if it's a bona fide gift to, a lot of people will say it's blood relatives, but it's pretty close relatives. But it does, I believe, include like in-laws, nieces, nephews, so pretty close. But yeah, there's a very definite list of who is exempt.
When I purchased my AR, I bought it from a friend's friend, and I've known my friend for over 10 years. And I told him, because he's like, we're going to have to go to a shop, do the FFL. They keep it for 2 weeks. I get the background check. And I said, just tell him to sell it to me. And then he's like, no, it's against the law. I said, and then I read it. And then I said, no, it's within family. Just tell him that he's my cousin. Like, I'm Mexican. There's 100, there's thousands of cousins everywhere. It'll have to be. But no, he stuck to his guns and I had to wait 2 weeks. When I got that one, and it's a POF, and it is petrifying. It's scary.
It's probably pretty loud. Yeah,
it is. The first time I went shooting at a range, I stood there for a good 5 minutes, and I was just so I got there's sweat that I was just so nervous. And as I was loading, and it was like if I was holding the most delicate. And my buddy who I was with, he says, you're making me more comfortable by being so careful and you're not taking it, you're taking it serious.
Giving it the respect it deserves.
He goes, I've gone shooting with other friends who it was also their first time and they were just very careless in their movements and not really looking. And I'm like, no, these things are, they deserve to be treated with very much respect.
Absolutely.
And my AR is fun to shoot. I've only shot it a few times. But man, because ammo's expensive.
Oh yeah. That's another thing people ask, is it coming down? I don't know. I don't know that it's ever going to go back to, $5.99 or $4.99 a box.
Yeah, you can spend $200 in ammo in half an hour. It's a lot. But yeah, it is fun to do. Like even just as a sport, they're fun to do. My mother-in-law gifted me my father-in-law's 38
revolver.
Yeah, special that it was super old. And like that one now has sentimental value to it
yeah.
because he was my father-in-law's, and my mother-in-law would say, "Yeah, I slept with this under my
Under
pillow
the
for a
pillow.
long time." And that one's fun to shoot too.
Yeah,
It's like
they
they're
are.
super fun to shoot. What is well, since I mentioned that I have 70 pairs behind there, what does your house look like?
It it's a very small old house. Like I said before, I don't really collect a huge amount. I've even with guns, I've got one safe. More of them are sentimental. My dad, that I got from him.
So no John Wick room that have them all mounted up on the wall.
No John Wick. No, I have I would say I probably have a girly house, floral. And I mean, when I went to Africa years ago and hunted, and thank God had the shop, because I was like, no, I'm not taking these to the house. They're not gonna fit in the vibe of my house. So take them down to the shop.
Oh, how was that?
Very fun.
What did you get?
We had oh gosh, we had a couple of choices, but I got a couple wildebeest. I got a warthog. That was one that I really, that
Pumbaa.
was, yeah. I got an impala. I got 5. I can't remember what. I don't know. The two wildebeests. Maybe I got 3 wildebeests. But it was.
So they're at the shop?
Yes. Yeah. Everything except for the warthog is at the shop. Yeah.
You kept the warthog?
No. We took it over to Chris's cabin, and he we didn't realize it until at night. We put him this down at the bottom of the stairway. It's kind of a split level, and we put him on the wall there. Well, he's under a light sconce.
Oh.
And we didn't realize it until the house was dark and we flipped on that sconce, and it lights him up from the bottom.
Oh.
So he's a little creepy.
A little scary.
A little scary, but it was like, oh, it's perfect. We're going to leave him there.
That's fun. What did you take on that hunt?
I took over oh boy. I think it was one of Chris's Mausers in 308 or 7x50. No, 308. And thank you. He's over there. I can't remember. But we knew the professional hunter. He's a very good friend. And so he actually had me switch to a 7 Mauser when I was there to use. But that was great. It was a great gun, great cartridge. Yes, I now remember it was 5 animals, 6 shots total. Very proud of that. Very proud of that.
Well, all the way to Africa to shoot 5 bullets.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
6 bullets.
I tell somebody, they said they were, wow, that was really impressive. I said, well, part of it was it wasn't, we were in not the off season, but the time that you want to go hunting. Their seasons are the opposite of ours. So December is ungodly hot. And we were in there July to August. So it was warm, but it was not hot. But I had heard stories of people shooting an animal and then having to track it for miles. And I was like, I am not cut out to do that. Yeah. So I want to make sure I shoot it. I'm respectful. I want that animal to go down. I don't want to be one of these. Yeah, we tracked it for 800 miles in the bush.
I like watching Steve Rinella's Meat Eater, and he does that. He's had a few of those where he gets it, tries to track it. Some of them he just can't find. Yeah, they're just gone.
Yeah, It's amazing how far they can run. But like I said, I got very lucky.
Now, is it so when people hear, I go on the safari to Africa, is it true that you have to buy a license or a tag to get this? Because I was listening to people talk about that, and there was a guy who works at one of these preserves in Africa, and he said that they are funded by hunters. I mean, I don't want to say 100%, but a big chunk of their budget comes from hunters who want to come. So when you see people that are on these safaris and get an animal, they are actually helping preserve.
Absolutely.
It's not just like someone here can just say, hey, I'm going to go to Africa and go kill a lion or something. No,
it's incredible. I mean, you pay obviously your airfare, your hotel, your lodging, things like that. A lot of the guide services, when we went, it was a package. So you had we had a driver. When you're at a lodge, you normally would have like a skinner and a tracker and things like that. But you pay what's called a trophy fee. And the thing about the trophy fee is, I think the common saying is, if there's blood, you pay. So meaning, let's say I'm going to shoot a nyala, which is it's a beautiful animal, really tall, just beautiful. I want to say the trophy fee for that is $2,500. Now, if I shoot it and we're tracking it and there's blood and we don't find it, I'm still out that $2,500. Yes. So they make, the money goes to the preserves. You also, I don't know if it's a matter of you can't bring the meat out or they just don't, but you don't bring it out.
Yeah.
So that's all eaten.
Yeah, that's all stays within their community.
Stays with the lodge. Will get some of the better cuts. When we were there, that was all we ate was game meat. But the locals get a ton of it. I mean, we would walk behind kind of some of the barns and there's zebra heads and you knew that they were going to get eaten.
Yeah.
So everything is used. Yes. It goes back to the community. Yeah,
I've had these conversations with a couple friends that don't like the Second Amendment and are very much in that world. And they were saying, oh, there's in the news in the past couple of years, there's been a couple of them. And it's usually gets a bad rap because it's usually someone who's wealthy. And then they start saying, oh, the wealthy people here think they can just go and pillage other countries and be proud of it. And then I said they probably paid a whole ton of dough to that country, to that preserve. And they're using it to make it better.
Yeah. And you've also got people out in the field. So you've got less poaching because there's people out there.
Right.
You know, if I'm out there hunting, I'm not, it's still eyes in the woods. And so, you absolutely, like I said, that with an Inyala, but you get into some of the bigger animals, 10, 20, 30,000 for one.
For one animal.
And again, and there's no guarantee.
Yeah. That's
one thing I tell people with hunting is that there's absolutely no guarantee, and you still pay that money. And, for like some of the cats, you had to book, at least like with the hunter, the people that we used, you had to book a 2-week hunt. Didn't matter if you got your tiger or not tiger, but your leopard on day one, you still paid that full amount. So it's absolutely beneficial to the community. And the other thing people, they figure out, they forget about, I always fall back on this, is whether you're talking deer here or elk or moose or African, that animal is probably going to go out one of 3 ways. It's going to get shot. It's going to die of starvation or disease or something like that, or it's going to get taken out by a predator.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but the first one is, if I'm going to go, there's no retirement home. There's no old age community.
Hey, I follow this Instagram account called Nature is Brutal. And nature is nature is brutal.
Yeah.
One of the craziest ones was an elk that it must have, well, it got into a fight with another elk and had its head trapped in its antlers. It's like, wow.
I've seen those where
nature's metal. That's what it is.
yeah,
Nature is
I
metal.
saw one where somebody came across something similar, and they were both dead.
Oh,
Found the bones, and then you could, they were still
locked in.
interlocked. So, yeah,
it's, and the conservation and gun and gun ownership kind of is hand in hand. I mean, in where was it in Alaska? Okay, take 1 second.
Okay.
The CZ Media Podcast is brought to you by Rancho Bravo Tacos. With 2 convenient locations, Capitol Hill and Wallingford, it's super easy for you to get some delicious Mexican food. Tacos, burritos, tostadas, whatever you like. I prefer the birria tacos. They're delicious. I dip them in a consomme. Ugh, love it every single time. The Capitol Hill location has a convenient drive-thru, or you can pick up your order and enjoy the patio. Rancho Bravo Tacos also offers catering. If you have an event coming up and you're in charge of catering, go to the website, ranchobravotacos.com, fill out the catering form. You'll get it all sorted out. They'll get it all worked out, and your event will be a hit. You will be the hit of your event if you get catering from Rancho Bravo Tacos. So don't forget, Capitol Hill, Wallingford, the website, ranchobravotacos.com, catering, patio, drive-thru, perfect, convenient, delicious. Okay, and we're back. I'll actually put a commercial in there.
Oh, commercial break.
I started a sneaker cleaner brand, and I'm shouting it out all the time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because, then Alaska, I believe they gave tags for wolves, and because they're disruptive. They were killing caribou, and in Texas, they do the javelines. Those, not only are those destroying farms, but they attack people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The wild boars. Yeah. They're doing a tremendous amount of damage to crops, to other wildlife.
Yeah.
The native. Yeah. It's crazy. I was telling someone about with the elephants in Alaska or in Africa that, when they go through an area, I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. They destroy everything.
They destroy it. And they were saying, one of the things there was, I think it's an acacia tree that the giraffe will feed on, and after they've fed a while, it gives off a bitter compound. So the giraffes will move on. They eat a little bit, not all of it. Well, they said what happens with the elephants is they get upset and they'll sometimes push the tree over. And they said now if they're starting to see declines in vultures because of the nests. Some of the other birds. So yeah, it's everything, works together, and you have these highs and lows, and it's sometimes natural. I mean, and if we stepped out of it, Mother Nature is going to have, a winter kill that was real heavy. So therefore all the rabbits died. So now all the coyotes are going to, and it ebbs and flows.
Everything changes. A lot of people think, I believe a lot of people think that nature will just be in this level state and never change, and if we didn't interrupt, it's like, no, they're still gonna kill each other.
Yeah. I mean, this life is not a Disney movie.
No,
it's not. Everybody's not gonna just love each other, and you're just gonna have problems. I
have 2 friends who are avid hunters, and one of them, he's a little nuts because he's the guy who shoots squirrels and then eats squirrels. And then I would say, like, why? It's like, I get elk, and I kind of even get bear, but I had bear once and it did not taste good.
I don't like it.
But it's like, why a squirrel? Why are you purposefully eating squirrels? I don't understand.
We have a customer who, this was a couple of years ago, came in. He was going to go, I think he was going, I don't know if it was Wisconsin, kind of back east, and he was going to go squirrel hunting. And I was kind of the same thing. I was like, he says, they're a lot bigger than they are here. It's like, okay, I don't know. Is it, then I was like, was it like chicken? Is it does it taste like chicken? What's it taste like?
Yeah. I think if it were in front of me, I would go ahead and taste it.
I would give it a try. Yeah.
But I'm not going to purposefully go out of my way. What was your first gun?
Oh my goodness. I can remember my dad training my sisters and I with, it probably was a little Smith & Wesson 34-22 revolver. That's probably what my first gun was.
Do you still have it?
I don't have that one. No, I don't know. I'm not sure what Dad he may have sold it. He may have, he kind of was always getting stuff and then he'd sell it. And he was always a sucker for a dad coming in saying, I just want to get an inexpensive little 22 for my son. So if he had one that he was saving for maybe his grandchildren, he'd sell them and then wait for another one to come along. So
with the shop, how many, what should we do? Like, you said you weren't an AR heavy shop, and that it was more on the collectible side. Collectible
hunting, target shooting, yeah.
I've seen one, and I think it was a 1911. I mean, I don't know if it was still there. I haven't been there in a few weeks, but it was really expensive. It was engraved.
Yeah, we probably don't have it there. We get in some collectibles. Every so often Colt or somebody will do what we call like a commemorative, and it might be commissioned by like a historical society or something like that. And yeah, they're gold engraved and they've got a presentation box, things like that. But you've also got legitimate old 1911s from 1915, 1916, 1920. And if they're all original, they can fetch a few thousand or more.
They can go. A friend of mine, his dad, his father-in-law he gave him his service 1911 from Vietnam. And I got to shoot that once, and it was nice. It was nice. And that's also on my list of ones that I want.
That's just a good, I think if I had to create a list of, if I want to collect guns, what's my 10 bare minimum? A 1911. They're just so iconic. So, John Browning was just a phenomenal gun designer. I don't know how many guns he developed, but there's a lot of them you think of that come to mind that he developed. But yeah, the 1911 is just,
it's nice.
That's just nice. Like I said, if you're going to collect guns, you gotta, you don't have to have an original, but you gotta have 1911.
Do these collectibles that you have at the shop that are, nice engraved, do they get used? Like, will people take them and...
Most of the time, no, because because that's part of the inherent value of them is that they're unfired. Now it doesn't mean that one of the things that people fall into is, Winchester with their 94s, their lever actions. Winchester has come out with over the years, probably, I'd say conservatively, at least 50 or 100 different commemoratives. Wild Bill, Golden Spike, there's, you name it, Texas, every state probably could have had one. They, at the time when they sold them, they were probably, for that time frame, fairly expensive. But if you shoot them, then it just kind of becomes what I would call, it's a nice lever action, but it's it's kind of like if you're, like you said, with the tennis shoes, if you have something or an action figure that's new in box, you play with that, the value goes down.
Yeah. I'm the knucklehead who, out of those 70, maybe I've worn 15. And the oldest pair that I have is from 05 that I still haven't worn. Which But unlike guns, shoes will fall apart if you don't wear them.
Yeah.
I think that one's just too old. Now, John Wick, huge movie. And, some people say, oh, it glorifies guns. And then other people say these guns are so cool. And, he's doing all of this training. And it's a cartoon, basically.
Yeah.
This movie.
Yeah.
It's not real. But the guns that he uses are real. And there's a bunch of YouTubers that do reviews and talk about them. Now, what makes, in one of his, and I don't remember which one it is, but one of his handguns sells retail for like $6,500. What makes a gun $6,500?
The finish, the fit, probably some of the, it's not conditions, but, what it's made of, night sights, things that are on it. You take a nice match grade firearm, and it's just smooth. The metal has been polished. The trigger, is when you shoot a good trigger, you are just like, oh, I get it.
So are you talking about the where it initiates and where it disengages?
Where it, for me, and I know it's probably not the right terminology, but where it breaks, on it, just you're pulling the trigger and then you just clicks. It just so it's kind of like anything. It's what it took to again, the finish, the how the pieces are together. Now some of it is name as well. Some of it is just
a prestigious brand.
Exactly. And there is value. You can look at it and say, okay, yeah, it's got night sights and it's hand fit and it's this and that. That's maybe about a $4,000 gun, but it's got this name on it, so they've kind of marked it up.
The competition guns. What makes a competition gun different than a non-competition gun?
Well, first of all, depending on the competition. But like my family, we do cowboy action shooting, so it's predominantly revolvers, lever actions, and shotguns that we use. For those, it's what we kind of call smoothing out or an action job. So when you go to cock it, it's a lighter hammer spring, so it doesn't take as much effort to cock. Again, it's very smooth. To use the old term, it's like butter. It just cocks nicely and lightly. Again, the trigger on the lever action rifles. Again, you've had somebody go in and just smooth all those potential little burrs. So when you're working the lever, it's just very smooth. You can get some things that will shorten up the again, I'm going to get this wrong. I think they call it short stroke, where instead of having to go full forward and all the way back, you just go maybe quarter of that.
Oh.
So the faster I'm doing that, the faster I can shoot.
So why wouldn't people want that as a default style?
Because it's going to cost more.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's if you have to have a qualified gunsmith do that. Like some of the companies, like Cimarron is one of the bigger cowboy revolver companies. They came out with one that was kind of had an action job, and I would say it kind of got you halfway there, but it was about $100 more than just stock. And so you're going to have, you're going to pay a gunsmith at least $100, maybe more to do that. But getting back to with the competition, so if you're getting into like with semi-automatic competition, again, it's sights. It's usually some kind of compensator. So when you're firing it, it's the muzzle. You're not going to have as much muzzle rise, so you can stay on your target.
Okay.
Easier. You might have like what's called a flared mag well, where if you're looking at the bottom of it, it's kind of almost like a funnel. So if I'm having to grab a magazine off me and load it, and I'm not really looking, I'm just because I'm usually on the move. So I'm just kind of putting it in, and I want it to kind of guide in. Like you say, if you had a funnel there, if I hit it wide, it's going to kind of guide it in.
Yeah. Okay.
So little things like that it's all about how fast I can do so, how much speed I can save, or how much faster I can be.
That makes sense. I wonder why that didn't occur to me. Because I was, as I just browsed, and, it says competition in there, and it's like, what makes this competition? With the shop and with customers, do you have customers now that went to your dad's shop?
I do. I see more. I don't remember a lot of them, but we do get people that I used to go to your dad's shop. There's a few that I remember, but more of them I just hear. I used to go to your dad's, and so and that's nice.
Neat.
That's nice. Yeah.
That must be good for them too, to continue giving business to the Pinto name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where does Pinto come from? The name?
We're Italian, so you mean as far as our last name? Yeah, just it's my last name, and it's Italian. But I've heard people say it's not very common in Italy. I think somebody said it's more Portuguese, but that's my grandfather was from Bari, Italy, so.
So you see your son. You said you had multiple sons.
Just one. That's all I can. One and done.
Yeah, I'm an only kid too. Do they say that your son is spoiled? That you spoil him?
Probably. We had this discussion because each of my sisters has 3 kids.
Oh.
And he was. I don't have old only child syndrome. I said, you kind of do, babe, a little bit. He's like, well, what is that? I said, well, I said, you're not bad. You're not totally spoiled, but you're an only child. You have your things, and you didn't ever have to share them with anybody. And so. Yeah,
I'm an only kid, and my cousins would call me a spoiled kid, but I really don't think I was. I really don't think I was. So is he a fan, and does he want to go into the family business?
He wants to be a police officer. Oh. He's trying that actively. We used to say when he was younger, he's either going to be a cop or a criminal. And he hasn't done anything bad, but he's gone through his. I'm just going to say he's gone through his semi-criminal phase, and now he's a kid. He's a boy. He did things that boys do. But yeah, he wants to be a police officer, but well,
Seattle needs them.
Yes. I don't know that he wants Seattle.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
No, but but he's definitely he's into guns. His fiance, when they first met, she's not a gun person at all, and he has gotten her into it, gotten her family into it. So when she comes to the shop now, she's looking, that's cute. That's kind of cute. That's kind of cute.
Well, that's good.
It is good.
It's good that it went that way, because if it had stayed the other way, and that's friction that you don't need. It
is tough, and we try to always. Impress upon people, a gun owner is your neighbor, is your banker, is the guy that sells you coffee, is anybody. We're not all, conspiracy theory, nut job, whatever you want to say. We're most of us are just average person, and we want to just shoot for fun, and we enjoy it. We collecting. I mean, there's a huge amount of people who are into it for the historical aspect.
Yeah.
I mean, that have guns. Chris, the co-owner of the shop, has guns back to, I don't know if I would say 1700s. But there's so much history in them. What are those called? Blunderbusses. He'll bring them into the shop, and let people look, and it's amazing, to I always look at them and think, my God, what has this been through? Where was this?
Yeah.
Who touched it?
That's exciting to think about.
It is. And so I think, trying to get people that, that there's more to it. There's, than just wanting to be violent or wanting to be John Wick, which is, it's fine if that's what you want to do. I mean, if you...
Well, when you talk about collectibles, some really dig the engraving and the artistry. One of my new things is watches. I've been watching tons of content on watches. And one of the guys has a collection of Italian shotguns that were engraved by some super famous guy. And, he's like, they can go 6 figures, these shotguns.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I'm not going to use them. But I just love the artistry of it. It's a piece of art. Then others dig the mechanics.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of my buddies talks about hammers and triggers and which one's better and which one feels better. So it gives you, if you are into it, there's a few different things that will, if you're an engineering nerd and to look, how that works.
Exactly. And
art guy.
Yeah.
It checks a lot of boxes.
It does. The fit and finish. I mean, I look at so many of Chris's and the metal to wood finish and fit. And you think, this thing is over 150, 200 years old. So was done by hand. Yeah. And it still to this day is almost perfect. And you just, whether you like guns or not, that just, like you say, it fits so many boxes on the engineering, the artistic, the woodworking, the just everything. Yeah. And then, like you say, just the who owned it?
I like watching Pawn Stars when they do those. Those blunderbusses are funny.
Oh, they are. Yeah.
How do you, this is the most political question that I'll ask. Where do you what do you think are reasonable, common sense regulations that there should be in place for Washingtonians?
Well, I mean, I think for anywhere, I think that, again, if you're trying to keep guns out of the hands of those who shouldn't have them, make it, I don't want to say easier, but we have a serious deficit in what is being reported mental health wise. That I tell people all the time, I can't make a judgment if I don't have the information. Right. When I call NICS and do the background check on you, if there's a whole part of your life that's not reported, how can they say, yeah, he's legal or he's not? Right. And so I think the reporting of mental health. Now I know that gets that does open up for a kind of a slippery slope, because I'd hate to see an issue where, well, let's say somebody says, 10 years ago, I was getting a divorce and I lost my job and my mom died and my dog got run over and I put myself voluntarily in a mental health facility because I recognized things were not good for me. I was there for 2 months. I got out. I'm fine. I'm on medicine. I've never had another episode. I'm mentally stable. Sure. I would hate to think of that person that if they looked at it and said, you had a problem 10 years ago, now you can't own a gun, versus somebody who is showing maybe chronic long-term signs or something like that. But figuring that out first and foremost. And again, I know there's not an easy solution, but I think putting laws in effect that are only going to affect you and I, they always have this idea they're not going to, they're going to stop the crime. It's not, because criminals by definition,
it'll be one thing or another.
Exactly. Make this the penalties stiffer. I mean, if the law says that you use a gun in a crime, it's an automatic 10-year. That's what it should be. And I understand you're always going to have the problem or the situation. Well, my son, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Well, this is what the law, it is. I just think that, when people ask especially with the assault weapons, well, why do you need this? Or why do you need a magazine that holds 30 rounds?
Yeah.
Or why do you need this?
I heard that question recently.
Oh, yeah. And I always come back with, okay, if because again, the state, they always try to put things around kids, that we're saving kids' lives. And, I would never in a million years condone violence against kids and the shootings. But let's look at, if you really are worried about how kids are dying, let's look at how they're dying. And I would be willing to bet that it's not guns. And I'm not talking, take the suicide out, because that's a mental health issue. That to me is not a gun violence issue. And I don't know how to solve that. And then take gangs out. I'm talking kids that are innocent victims of gun violence. I think the last report I looked at in this state, it was very, very low.
Yeah.
How many kids are dying by texting and driving, drinking and driving, distracted driving?
Just last week.
Yeah.
On 410.
Yeah. So if you really are worrying about kids' lives,
other things.
Let's raise the driving age to 18.
Yeah. And even on top of that, the very, very unfortunate, horrific events that do happen aren't AR.
No,
they're not AR related.
No.
They're hand. I mean, that's even. But there's no. And I was having this conversation with a friend the other day. It's like there's nothing you can do about how many there are.
Yeah.
It's more of the controlling who gets it, but a lot of that just seems to be ignored.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I do understand the concern of having a national database of people who have some sort of mental health note on their who controls this
exactly.
I mean, there's a ton of other, but it kind of seems like it would be a good place to start.
I mean, at least something. I think one of the last reports I heard, the vast majority of states don't report to the federal government. So you're not even giving us anything, and I think too, in making some of the laws, I think we've gone so far away from where you could, where a parent could send a child to a mental institution and they had no choice, to we've kind of swung the other way where it's so hard to have someone committed.
Yeah.
And I think, that's if my son or my partner who, my son has known me his entire life, if he tells authorities, my mom is not right, there is something wrong, he should have some say in, take her for 20 for
Sure.
4, and at the end of it, if you tell me I'm the one that's crazy and she's totally mentally got everything in a line, great. But there should be something that the family or loved ones or people that are closest to them could say, this person needs to be held.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this is my dad, and he doesn't, he's out in his bathrobe speaking in tongues and, so just, I think that, and you're right. You bring up a good point that they're not ARs, in this new law, the Senate Bill 1240, we've gone over it and we've literally had to look almost at every firearm that we have that's a semi-auto or whatever, and look and say, is it this? Is it this? Is it, nope, it's okay. But a perfect example of this, our government is a Ruger Mini 14. Okay, it's a semi-automatic centerfire rifle. It has a detachable magazine. If it has a threaded barrel or a muzzle device or a thumb hole stock or something like that, it's illegal. But if it doesn't, it's got a wood stock, doesn't have a thumb hole, it's legal. It's the same gun, essentially, can still shoot. It still has a detachable magazine. It's the same caliber. It's the same gun. It's just you're telling me that if it has a threaded barrel, it's illegal. But if it doesn't, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
What sense does that make?
Yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
So the guns that you did have in inventory that don't comply now with this, what happens to those?
We were pretty fortunate that we kind of stopped ordering guns before, kind of well in advance, figuring that if we gave ourselves a buffer to sell them, do the background checks, and get them out of the shop. Yeah. We do still have none of ours, but we do have some consignments, so ones that we're selling for people. The law does allow us to sell those online out of state. So,
okay.
And it does allow this, if somebody 6 months from now comes in and says, I want to sell my AR, we can take those in and sell them online and ship them out of state. We just can't sell them in state.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah, there's a little bit because if you're stuck with them and it's like,
Yeah, what would they want you to do with them? They would probably say turn them in. And
destroy them, exactly. Yeah, because I can't give them back to the owner now. And so at least there is that clause.
Man, it's it seems like a whole lot to keep track of.
It's a lot. We've even trying to today, we it was about 5 or 6 of us that were trying to read on the shotgun part, and I wouldn't say split. I think I was the only one that was. I think it was 5 against 1. But even trying to read that part of whether the pistol grip does it make it illegal or legal?
I have an AR-10. I wonder if that one...
AR-10s, I think, are mentioned.
Are they?
So I don't think... Yeah, you can keep it, but you can't get rid of it.
That one I haven't shot yet. I've had it for a long time, and I still haven't shot it yet. But it has a 5 capacity.
Oh, yeah.
Which makes it so that I can't use it for hunting. I think here, 3 is the max.
No, I don't think that there's any limits.
Oh, okay.
I don't think on shotgun you can only have 3, and you have to have what's called a plug in the shotgun. But as far as rifle, I don't believe that there's any restrictions on capacity. So
okay, then yeah.
I mean, it's not real like you say, it's just not real practical to have but.
Yeah, there's just a lot of things that don't make sense. One of the first things that really stuck out to me that didn't make sense was I have my concealed carry, and there's this whole background check that they have to do for that, fingerprints at the police station. But when I go to buy one, I still need to do all of that background check. Like that, to me, that doesn't make sense, especially because it's Washington. Like I sort of get it if it were like if I had my concealed carry for Washington and then I
go to another state.
else.
Yeah.
Like it sort of makes sense to have to do that concealed carry process all over again. But inside Washington, why is that? Just one of their goofy things.
Well, I will say it is because the concealed carry permit is good for 5 years. It is entirely possible in that 5-year period that you could commit a crime that would prohibit you from owning a firearm. Because in Washington, well, you've always had to do a background check. So I would say it shouldn't necessarily get you around the background check because again, you could have done something.
Yeah.
But what I would be in favor of is something similar, saying, okay, I'm going to go apply for a purchase permit. I do the same thing. You verify I'm a good person, never broke the law, and nothing prohibiting me from owning a firearm. And instead of having the dealer now, you got to fill out the forms and do all this. Okay, fill out one form so I know who I'm selling it to. Mm-hmm. I call a number. I say, hey, I've got Carlos here. Here's his permit number. Is he still a good guy?
Is it valid? Is it still valid?
Yep. He's
that
still,
makes sense.
and then because it's easy to say if you get this permit at 21 and you're now 35, if he did something in that time frame, we revoke the permit, even though he still has it. But on the computer, it says, no longer valid.
Yeah, there should be something like that.
Something like that. I mean,
because, these individuals who say that you can just walk in and then walk out with one, it's like, that's not true.
No.
And then I tell them my story. It's like, I went, it took 3 weeks for this background check from the police station. And then I went to the shop, and I can't just walk out. I got to wait 2 weeks.
Yeah. and it's going to get worse, because when it goes, I don't remember. I think it was at 1143, another law that went into effect, and it'll go into effect in January, that I believe it's going to be a mandatory 10 business day on all firearms, which is just, I've told people when we do like the NICS check and you put your information in, and when I do one on me, it pops back almost instantly. I'm good to go. Yeah. And I've had people, well, what do you mean it only took a minute? I've never done anything in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, why should it take longer? Why, if it goes through my criminal background check, which there is none, why does it need, why can't, I mean, it shouldn't take that long, because I've never done anything wrong other than a speeding ticket.
And it seems to me that is, they're under the assumption that you will do something wrong.
Yeah.
And that either you're going to forget about it or you're going to lose your motivation.
I know. Or again, like, it should take longer. Well, what are you going to do? Go back to kindergarten?
Yeah.
I mean, again, when the one nice thing, NICS, is who we do the federal checks through. They do what's called a retailer day. And every year, gun shops can go back to one of these events, and it's kind of a behind the scenes. And so you find out a lot of information. And one of the things they said when we, when I type your information into the online form, they said, we're looking for wants and warrants. We're looking for, I think it's fingerprintable, times that you've been fingerprinted for crime, not just, for a job application or whatever. And there was a third one. And again, it was, if you've never committed a crime, you're not in our database. So it's real easy to look. And, and I don't know how many gigabytes and whatever they can search it, in lightning speed. But it was just that, why does it need to take longer?
Yeah.
If there's nothing there,
right, it
should come back fast. And it's, but you're right. Yeah. People, I don't know. Okay, so if it takes a month, I mean,
what difference does it make?
What difference? Yeah. They have this, I think they have this idea again with they used to call it the cool down period, the 10-day cool down period. I'm not a criminal, but I would be willing to bet a 10-day cool down period or a 5-day cool down period, I'm still going to be pissed.
Yeah. It won't go away.
It's not going to go away. I'm not going to decide, you know what? 8 days. Okay, I'll go do something else before I go shoot my employers. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. It's nutty. Well, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
I think you gave us a whole ton of information.
Good.
I do have way more questions, but I've taken up an hour of your time already.
Well, we'll come back for a part 2.
We'll do a part 2.
Yeah.
Because, stuff is in more laws, and then who knows? I mean, Inslee's out and Ferguson will probably be in, and who knows what he'll do.
Yeah.
So,
even with the ones that are, the 1240, there's lawsuits.
Right.
There's, might get lucky that that maybe some things get overturned. Or there's an injunction. Maybe, I don't know. There's times where I hate to say it because I've lived here my whole life, but I don't sometimes have a whole lot of hope for Washington State, but maybe.
Florida is too humid for me. I used to go to Florida a ton for work, and it is horrible. I can't do it. And Texas is too hot.
We have a nephew that just got out of Marine boot camp, and he's back in Pendleton, and then he's going to Pensacola. I thought a couple days ago, that boy, he's never had humidity.
Oh man, it is brutal. Yesterday it was kind of humid here, and I felt it, and I was not happy. I grew up in Chicago, and that has tons of humidity, and I don't know how I survived it as a kid, but I've been here now for 18 years, and I'm a total wuss when it comes to humidity.
I think it's gotten worse. I think because I lived here my whole life, and I don't remember. Maybe it is like when you're a kid, you don't care. You're out running around. You're in the pool. You know, you're just outside. You don't care. But yeah, oh no, step out in front of a fan and away from it, and
Well, so yeah, thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Shout out the shop. Tell them where you are, where they can find you.
Pinto's Gun Shop, 224 Wells Avenue South in downtown Renton.
And the website is
pintosguns.com.
pintosguns.com.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you everyone for listening. Don't forget to sub on your favorite podcasting app. Check us out on YouTube. And the sponsors, Rancho Bravo Tacos and the Sneakers Friend. Check them out. Thank you so much.